I've literally had a county commissioner come into my office and say, my voters are not going to be happy if I put this low-income housing in my district. Go fuck yourself. End of conversation. And they have the power to do that, even though what we're trying to build meets building code, meets zoning, meets the rules that are established, but they just have this extra power to shut it down. It's horrible.
Hey everyone, welcome to Beyond the Build, the podcast where innovation meets collaboration in the world of construction. We bring together thought leaders and industry experts to explore the cutting-edge ideas transforming construction equipment, supply chains, building materials, and workforce productivity.
This podcast is proudly brought to you by Faro, the revolutionary last-mile logistics platform, redefining how high-value, time-sensitive construction deliveries get done. Need it fast? Need it right? Faro.
Hey everyone, today we're joined by Galiano Tiramani, founder of Boxabl, the $3 billion startup shaking up the construction industry. With deep roots in entrepreneurship, Galiano is rethinking housing through scalable, modular homes built in a factory setting. His mission? Make homeownership more affordable by streamlining how we build. In this episode, we're going to dig into how Boxabl is tackling costs, speed, and efficiency in construction, and what it means for large-scale development and the housing crisis. Galiano, thanks for being on and welcome to Beyond the Build.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
I did some little bit of research on you, on your guys' company. So give me like the high flyover, like, I wouldn't say like pitch me, but at the same time, let me know what's the relevant information.
Yeah, so my name's Galiano. My company is Boxabl. We are a factory building houses in Las Vegas. And the goal is to make housing affordable by mass producing it in a factory on an assembly line, the same way we build all other modern products, but not housing. Housing is still built using manual, custom, one at a time, hand tools, skilled tradesmen. And of course, if we built any other product like that, it would be expensive, slow, low quality, just like housing is. So our idea is we want to build houses the same way that they build automobiles. And most car factories like Ford or Tesla put out one car every minute or less off of those assembly lines. And if you do that, you end up with the lowest possible labor cost, lowest material cost, highest quality, et cetera. All the technology exists. There's a bunch of problems that we are working to solve to make it possible for housing.
Is that story, I kind of did a little pre-research. It sounded like one of the aha moments was something about folding a house and getting it down to like highway legal size. Is that true?
Yeah. So the other co-founder, Paolo, many years ago,
and that's your father, right?
Yes. Built a modular house using regular traditional factory-built modular, and he noticed that they were shipping these wide loads that were very expensive and cumbersome to ship. You might have seen them on the highway. Not only do they require special permitting and fees, but you actually need not just the driver and the truck carrying the load, but you need another car and driver behind it. So when you ship it like that, it's extremely cost prohibitive. And what ended up happening with all these modular factories was they kind of have small regional factories. They're not shipping far from the factory because they can't, because it costs too much and it blows the budget. So our initial innovation was, let's make the room modules highway legal to ship at the lowest cost. And that will enable us to scale into a bigger factory, serve a larger geographic area without blowing up the shipping budget. So that's what we've done. Our first product is the Casita. It's a 360 square foot little apartment, kitchen, bathroom, bed, couch, 20 feet wide, roughly, built in the factory, folds up to 8.5 feet wide, but is still finished with plumbing, electric, cabinets, windows, flooring, pretty much everything inside the house is done.
What are some of the like,
I got a question.
I'll let you jump
JP.
in. Yeah, jump in there.
How old were you when your dad decided, hey, let's build a mini house to put you in timeout or go play in it or something? Or was this later in life?
So my dad historically was a mechanical engineer who did 3D solid modeling on the computer. He would invent products, patent them, and then sell the patent, basically. So he has a whole bunch of different inventions, intellectual property. And this was an idea that he had 20 years ago, where he drew the first drawing of a house folding up and patented it. And then it kind of went on the shelf. And then in 2017, I just said to him one day, hey, I think that it might be good timing to give it a shot at actually taking this invention and turning it into an operating company. And he said, sure, give it a shot. So I made a website, started showing it around, got more and more traction, eventually landed a large order from the Department of Defense, leveraged that to get us into a factory, and kept going. And here we are today.
Yeah, because when I started researching again for personal, satisfaction, I'm like, wow, how do I get out of my house and be able to have my own space? I'm thankful I have enough property where I could build a casita, maybe even like a podcast studio or an office, right? And then my wife and kids would be like, great, he's out of the house. I don't have to hear him basically talking all day long. And then to your point where people need affordable housing, where it's like, I just got out of school and let's say I have a little bit of money left over, maybe if I don't have a bunch of student loans, but I want to get to that first starter house and it's just me and my girlfriend, or, it's me by myself, and you can purchase the land. And then I started spending it again. These are all the ideas you guys probably come up with. Then I'm thinking job sites. I remember when I was in the oil and gas, how many people would come in and how we'd have to stage them, or the shale regions up into the Dakotas where we have these man camps everywhere. And we used to bring in the 40-foot William Scotsman trailers with the paneling on. And it was just like, okay, these are like dorm rooms. But now it's like, if you can put these up and move them, I'm sure those are a lot of the innovative things that you guys are already talking about and doing, correct?
Exactly. So we started out with that little house for a backyard ADU, but the vision goes far beyond that into all different types of housing solutions. And we've done workforce housing for mining as well before, but we also have other products too, like little houses that live on wheels. So that's for like a temporary use case where you don't have to really set anything up. You just park it, unhitch it, plug it in, and you're good to go. So that's like all kind of the different things we're thinking of to try and approach it, to try and get through the regulatory framework, to try and make the lowest cost possible housing solution.
Yeah, I'm sure that's an undertaking dealing with the cities and the municipalities and the permits stuff. Because as you know, a lot of times in construction, you've got a great product, great idea, and then you've got some bureaucratic tape that's going, oh, hold on, let me see this. And you're like, can we just get something built here? You guys run into a lot of those brick walls?
Oh, yeah. I think that's really the big problem with building construction in the country. Like, there's kind of two things. One is the way we're building. Like I said before, it's slow and expensive to build in a custom manner on site. But the other half of the equation is the regulation. The real reason housing is unaffordable for people is that the government is restricting supply of housing through, a million different bureaucrats and regulators that can shut down housing. There's so many different ways they can shut down housing, and they do. And anyone who's a builder or tries to build or even tries to put an addition on their house or a pool or anything, they know how crazy it can be. So we have a big plan and a roadmap to fight through that and fix that and reform it. And there's a lot of changes going on. And I think things are really going to open up in the future as people get squeezed more and more on housing.
As much at the federal level as they are at the individual municipalities or the state level? Or is it just like you're getting hit in every single direction and you're fighting a multi-front war when it comes to, breaking down those barriers?
It's really not a federal issue. There are some things, but it's not a problem with the federal government. This is all local and state putting up roadblocks to housing. A lot of times it's like the building department doesn't even want new housing in their town. If you try and do something that's a low cost housing, they say, we don't want poor people in our town, stuff like that. I've literally had county commissioner literally come into my office and say, my voters are not going to be happy if I put this low-income housing in my district. Go fuck yourself. End of conversation. And they have the power to do that, even though what we're trying to build meets building code, meets zoning, meets the rules that are established, but they just have this extra power to shut it down. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's like San Francisco. It's like, how many more tents do you want in cardboard boxes? When it's like,
right?
yeah, dude, we have a product and a solution.
So So I've had a big problem with the Arizona Department of Housing. I think they've done a bunch of probably illegal things to block my company in their state specifically, and we're addressing that head on with them. But it's the example you just gave. We had a 200 unit project with one of the biggest employers in the state that was a copper mine, and they shut the whole thing down, destroyed it, cost us millions of dollars for no good reason, for no legitimate reason. And I went to their headquarters to meet with them. First of all, the building was empty because they all work from home in this multi-million-dollar fancy building. Second of all, there's a homeless encampment on the front steps of the Arizona Department of Housing. It's probably still there. Tent City. Meanwhile, these short-sighted bureaucrats are shutting down me putting 200 housing units in their state. It's fucking disgusting. Pisses me off. I'm never going to be quiet about it. I'm always going to cause problems. And any regulator that acts unreasonably or against the best interests of my company and the general public is going to have a serious problem with me. And we're going to fight, and we're going to win, and we're going to expose everything they do. And we're going to go through it systematically. And we're going to maintain the moral authority throughout all of it, because we're trying to do the right thing and provide housing. And these people are trying to shut down housing based on a bunch of different special interests, self-interest, and it's not okay. So, it's kind of like if you think about disruptive companies, like, for example, Uber fighting with the taxi medallion companies, Airbnb, plenty of lawsuits about short-term rental rules, even like Tesla doesn't even have dealerships in all 50 states because of these crazy rules. So, all of us who want to change things and make them better, we're going to have to fight a battle here and there to make it happen, and we're going to do it.
That's what we're trying to bring to the forefront. Like, that's where our company, like, we're the Uber for construction deliveries, right? And so what we like to call ourselves is progressive disruptors. Like, we're trying to get people to change the way they think, whether it's in a municipality, state level, or just an organization, companies, big enterprises that said, nope, we've done it this way for this many years. And it's like, sometimes as, engineers, you just invert the problem a little bit different, tilt your head, and you're like, wow, never even thought about it that way. But yet they're so reluctant to change because it's the way we've always done it. It's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah. I mean, there will inevitably be change because it is broken, and that broken system will squeeze and squeeze and squeeze until things boil over and enough people want it to change. And hopefully there can be players like us that, push it past that point.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say is, Galiano, when looking at your product and what you're trying to put out, I also have no inclination that this is only regulated or relegated to the poor, to phrase it that way.
I put one on my property right now. Like I said, a casita. I need a 2,000 square foot casita in my backyard. I know what it costs to build.
It's a very upscale product. It's very high quality. We can build big houses, small houses. It's a building system. It can build anything.
I just think it's super short-sighted of them on their end to kind of automatically.
That one was because we wanted to build the casita in a little community, like 100 of them, 360 square feet each. It would have been one of the most affordable new housing things in town. And they knew that would be perceived as attracting low rent people. And I've had this conversation over and over. Like, for example, there's some mobile home parks in Vegas, probably the worst ones in Vegas. Really fucked up places with 1960s trailers that are falling apart, that are poisoning people, etc. We tried to go and swap those out with casitas, and we were just met with the most insane pushback. And we had to fight and fight and fight and spend money and spend time to get these projects through. And we did in the end, but it was outrageous. And they try and say, oh, our regulations make sure this is safe. I'm like, first of all, our product's obviously safe. We have a track record. We have approval in many states, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your 1960s mobile homes that we're trying to replace are obviously not safe and decrepit and disgusting, and you're full of shit.
Yeah, half of them are still are probably insulated with asbestos still,
Oh yeah. On the building side, what were some of the early challenges you guys had in the design phase, and then how did you get through those? And like, what's the new thing that's going to just revolutionize the way you're producing these things or new features?
Yeah. So back in the day, I was trying to figure out how do we build with different materials and manufacturing methods to make it kind of accommodate assembly line better, to simplify the process, to create less parts and all that. And we ended up creating this product that is the same product for the most part that we started with day one of this current factory. We've been running with that for a few years. We've learned a lot through that process on a lot of different fronts, whether it's regulatory or the way it's built or the materials or the manufacturing method. So now we have what we're calling the phase 2 product, which is larger room modules, stackable, townhouses, apartments, all that stuff. But it's also built using different materials and manufacturing methods. So we're rolling that out kind of in the process right now. And we think that is going to bring down our cost a lot. We think it's going to increase our structural ratings, our fire ratings, give us less regulatory issues. So we're really excited to put that product out. That's, kind of the result of basically years and years in R&D and research. And I think that's going to put us really ahead of the curve when customers are looking at our product versus other ones or traditional site building.
Yeah, and as you build too, coming from the traditional construction industry, I start thinking about like the weight, right? Like insulation, like how is that looking like in terms of you pull a precast wall and it's foldable, like how much can that weigh? What is the level of insulation if you're going to different temperature settings like Arizona, Las Vegas, and then the cooler temperatures, in the Northeast? Like how does that factor in when you guys are looking at the drawings and the schematics and saying, hey, we've got to put up this wall. We want to get it stackable. What's the load bearing capacity? How does the insulation? And then more importantly, when we get it collapsed, how much does all this stuff weigh? And, sure, all that goes into the design.
There's a lot of different factors. There's a lot of different pros and cons. There's different things that kind of work against each other. Cost, weight, insulation. So we have to be really innovative. We have to balance everything. But at the end of the day, I have to create one universal product that works for the whole country. So right now, if you build a regular house in, let's say, California, you're not going to build it the same way as you would in Florida with the high winds. Maybe you have seismic in California and high winds so it's different. Then you have hot and cold and all that. So we had to create one product that meets and exceeds all that stuff. So our product, whether it goes in a high wind place or a low wind place, it's going to be rated for the high wind. And we were able to kind of massage all that together. And the product we have now, we think it meets most requirements for most of the United States. And then you can kind of tweak it to go more hardcore, adding on more installation if you're on top of a mountain or something.
I have a quick question about the manufacturer itself, like what the materials used. Are the units that you're putting out now, are they built with, kind of standard wood framing, or have you upgraded to steel framing?
No.
Yeah. So what we're building right now is not a common way of doing it. We're using EPS foam, so like styrofoam core that's laminated to sheet metal and magnesium oxide board. And that's how we're kind of cranking them out right now. And then we're transitioning into a light gauge steel design for the phase 2 product that I described before.
And that's more like a light scale or light gauge steel would be more of a stud kind of style?
It's a stud system. Yeah. And I think it gives us a bunch of benefits. Like I said before, there's pros and cons to everything, and we're just kind of reacting to what makes sense, what's possible, trying to remove the barriers and the friction points that we see.
Is there anything that sticks out in your mind in the process of getting to where you're at now, where you maybe at the beginning thought, oh yeah, that's going to be an easy solve, and then you get into the weeds of it, and you're like, wow, that was a lot more than I expected?
I expected the manufacturing to be harder than it was, and I expected the sales and regulatory to be easier than it was. I knew they'd both be hard, but it turns out that I can make a lot of houses really fast right now, but actually locking in customers, getting them set up, land, utilities, permits, approval, all of that kind of has a long sales cycle. So with, this type of product, it's not like, oh, this is, this AirPod and I can put it in a FedEx envelope and ship it to someone as soon as they order it. If someone wants to buy our product, we have to say, no, wait a second. Let's make sure you're allowed to have it. Let's get you financing. Let's get permits. Maybe permits sit for 6-9 months. So it's created this kind of long sales cycle that will ramp up and things will snowball. So projects that came in the pipeline a year ago are coming to fruition today, and we'll kind of build up. And we're really, right now, really focused on ramping up sales. We feel like we've spent a few years with the R&D, figuring everything out, making sure it's okay, getting the regulatory, and now we're ready to really sell. So we've changed a lot of our online process around. We've hired a new sales team. We've integrated different CRMs and all kind of stuff like that. And now we're really going to sales mode and going nuts, and we'll see how that turns out over the next year. But I'm really excited with the progress we have.
I think that's consistent with a lot of entrepreneurs that have new products that are disrupting. They have a fantastic idea. They have a fantastic product. But to your point, it's like getting the naysayers and changing people's culture of like, I want to try something different. Right? I've always went back to the same two things that motivate most people, and those are money and fear. I don't have enough or I might die, so I have to change what I'm doing. If those two levels aren't high enough, they're like, it's like going to the doctor. Hey, you need to get in shape. Yeah, I'm all right. Just give me a pill. And the doctor's like, no, stop feeding yourself this crap and go for a walk or do something. They're like, nah, I think I'm good, until the doctor's like, yeah, your heart's going to explode in about 2 months. So, yep, I better get on it. Right. Or the motivation of like, well, if I do this, will I make $100 million? Okay, I'm in. But if it doesn't incentivize enough, they're like, yeah, I think I'll just stay in my lane. I'm not really wanting to change.
That's funny you say that. I mean, I kind of have both sides of that here, because on one hand, the upside is incredibly massive. If we pull this off and we can prove that we can build houses faster and cheaper than anyone else, this is one of the largest industries around to disrupt in that way. The upside is absolutely nuts. On the flip side, if I fuck up and the company fails, the jeopardy is like next level. Because of the scale we're at, because of the money we've raised, because of all the customers and all the employees and everybody that would get burned if that happened. So I'm basically running around every day like on fire, like make it happen, from the time I wake up to the time I go to sleep.
How are you managing that pressure?
I've kind of my whole life put myself into the high pressure situations, so I'm good with it. But it takes a toll for sure.
What's your kind of personal background? Were you in sports? Did you serve in the military? And anything that kind of like high stress environments as a youth or as a young adult growing up that kind of morphed and informed you?
Frankly, I had, when I was a kid, a lot of legal and substance abuse issues for many years. And that was like just torture, but it was also training camp for what laid ahead when I cleaned up my act and started putting in a lot of effort. And, it's the last, decade or so, I've been super successful in business and things like that and family and all that. So it's good.
Who were your big supporters during that kind of dark time in your life? Who kind of always stuck with you to help you through that? Or were you having to pull yourself up by your bootstraps?
Yeah, it's always been with my dad, we were.
Was it
we
as
were close
frustrating
back
to you
then,
than as me when I learned that my dad was right about everything that he said?
I wouldn't go that far.
Not quite that far. Not on the record, at least.
But yeah, I mean, dads definitely have a lot of wisdom.
No, we find that quite a bit. It's the scary thing of going, hey, am I going to fail, or should I just kind of stay, in that comfort zone?
I think if you just keep going and keep trying, you can't really fail, because even if you do fail, you didn't really fail because you just try again and again and again and again. And you can fail like 1,000 times and win once and come out ahead big time.
But it's that willingness too to also just throw it out there, surrender to what it's going to be. And, keep moving forward and not worrying about the expectation and going, oh, this defines me. It's like, no, not really. I mean, in some cases, we like actually show off our scars as guys. You're like, hey, look where I got this one from, and it's like a war story. And they're like, well, I got one too. Or some people will be like, I want to hide that.
On the boat in Jaws.
Yeah, I'm like, no, man, tell me how you got through it, because I might fall into that same shithole, 2 years from now. And if I know that you got through it, then number one, I'm not going to die, and number two, I might know how to navigate it.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely find myself spending a lot of time trying to kind of psych myself out, like, all right, let's meditate, let's get through this, let's not worry about yesterday or tomorrow, let's just focus on what we're doing right now and keep going, all that.
Yeah, and one of the things too that I've tried to continue to I've been using the word recalibrate lately, is being able to get into the fight, but doing it with a high level of humility, right? Going in and be genuinely curious about, okay, you don't want this. You have these concerns, let's say, for instance, your guys' product, you have these concerns about low income, residents. Like, unpack that. Like, tell me what you're really intimidated about, and let's not make it about the product or what we're trying to achieve, but give me some color as to where your fear lies, and being genuinely humble and curious about it, even though in the back of your mind you're going, wow, if I could just like clean their glasses off and let them see it through a different lens, we could all succeed. But at the same time, in a fight, and I know this by being married, when I walk into that situation, I got two choices. Do I want to be the thermostat or the thermometer? And if I come in and I'm the thermometer, I just heighten myself to that same level of anger and frustration, and now we're both just getting ready to snap. Where I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to go be the thermostat. I'm going to control my emotions to figure out what's the greater good for this conversation, and not match tit for tat the passion and energy that's being, thrust upon me.
Oh, I like that. I'm going to need that for my wife then.
But just remember, on wives, I tell people, do not take marriage advice from me, but I just want 10%. That is just enough to be informed and not enough to be accountable. Just let them do what they're going to do. And I married up, so, I'm the knuckle dragger in the house, and she's a smart one. More stuff about the company, though. Are you guys planning on global, or are you going to stay domestic?
Yeah, we absolutely think that our solution will work everywhere. We think housing is an issue everywhere. And once we get the formula really dialed in here, where we think it's ready to be repeated and tweaked for overseas markets, we'll be pursuing partners to make that happen.
Yeah, because some of the things I think, being able to travel and seeing how different countries operate, there's some regulations. I mean, take for instance, like the pharmaceutical industry, right? They have different standards in the EU than they do in the United States. Same thing with housing and building, right? They live differently. United States is this kind of like, everything's bigger. Bigger is better. I want more land. I want more space. You're like, there's two of you. Why do you need a 10,000 square foot house? Right? You go, overseas, and they're like, no, there's two of us. I just need an 800 square foot house. Like, their mindset and culture is different. So when they look at products, like they're saying, hey, flexible concrete that they're doing in Asia, right, for big high rise that actually moves, here would be like, nope, not even attempting that, right? Or to the point where, and so cooler temperatures countries, they're like the foam insulated building materials, right? Like where you can literally precast in foam, put rebar in there, pour concrete, and then when you're done, it's literally like living in a Yeti cooler. Better insulation, everything else. And it's like, there's just different ways and regulations that we're building. So I'm sure you guys have considered this, but it's like, if domestically they can't get out of their own way, then it's like, all right, well, then we got to go to a place where they're not in their way. And last time I checked, there's a lot of people all over the world that need this.
Yeah, especially in developing countries, they're allowed to just go, go, go. I've met with some of the other big factory built housing guys overseas, and I'm jealous, like the ones operating in like North Africa, Middle East, where no one tells them don't do it. And they're able to really do mass production like I want to do, like I eventually will be able to do. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. They're just out there building as fast as they can. No one can stop them. No one wants to stop them because it's in such need.
Pivoting a bit to the production process, I had a question about, or I'm just curious about the craftsman side of things, the hand to tool kind of folks that you have working there. With the automobile, using that as kind of the primary example of assembly line automation, that all used to be people, craftsmen that would build the vehicles and get them off the line. Now it's all robo arms and robo welders and all this stuff. Where do you see the future of that in this circumstance?
Yeah, so with an assembly line, you end up with a technician that's doing a repeatable task. So let's say electrician. The person in our factory doesn't need to be an electrician. They just need to be told, take this wire, cut it to this length, take this wire, cut it to this length, over and over again, or whatever the task is, however it's broken down. In site construction, they need to know what they're doing. They need to be a trained electrician. They're doing custom electrical work, so that's the big difference. And so, site construction uses skilled tradesmen that are highly paid. Our factory uses low-skilled, lower-paid technicians who do a repeatable task. And then the big benefit you get from assembly line is just kind of reducing all the wasted time. So imagine like you're in a house doing electric on the wall, and you walk to the wall and you cut a little hole through it and you run some wire, and then you grab a tool out of your tool bag and then you switch to this, and then you think about what you're doing for a second. There's a lot of wasted time versus if that was cut down to a task that took less than a minute and you only have one tool and it never leaves your hand, and you do the same thing over and over and over again, you're going to cut dramatically back on that labor. That's the assembly line principle that is pioneered by Henry Ford and applied to every other modern product except housing. So that's why this is potentially such a big innovation. If we can crack the code on how to do it in the factory, transitioning one of the biggest and last kind of industrially manufactured products into the factory and get all that efficiency back and get all that labor cost back, and then have other benefits as well. I think we can come out dramatically ahead on cost and speed and quality for housing.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the biggest things. Scott, you mentioned it all the time, wrench time on job sites. And of course, we're talking about commercial construction, but I'm sure it's very similar for residential as well. But you said that wrench time efficiency is 30% or 35% somewhere?
Average commercial job sites, you get about 30% wrench time. And everything hinges based on cost per man hour, right? Your material cost is somewhat
wrench time,
fixed.
you're saying that
actually,
that's the time they're
actual
actually
tool
working.
time.
Actual tool time,
work,
like doing production. The other 70% is waiting, logistics, meetings, planning. So when you look at a project and like, what's our time frame? 2 years. Okay, well, how do you accelerate that? You increase your wrench time. So perfect example is like I was on a high-rise project in downtown, Manhattan. We're watching the guys come down from the 14th floor down to Manhattan to grab a sandwich and come back. And I'm like, why don't we just put a Subway franchise in the project on the 14th floor and then move it up as we go up, every 15 to 20 floors, right? We scale out and build out. And they're like, okay, so what does that do? It cuts down the amount of time people are off site and they get back to work. Same thing with porta potties and, oil and gas on shutdowns where we have 3,000 people. It's like, if I put the porta shooter halfway down, they got to take a buggy and they got to go grab it. But if you get it closer, they get back to work. This general, like what we're doing in assembly line it's not far off from what they're doing in commercial construction. For instance, take a electrician. There's people that lay the wire and pull the wire, and there's people that hook it up, right? It's two different skill sets. Heck, the three of us can probably say, hey, you grab the red, green and blue. Let's run it through, use our pipe, our shivs and everything else to get it around the corners and runs and make sure there's no kinks and cuts. But then they're like, hey, hook it up. And all three of us were like, yeah, I'm not hooking that up. I don't know how to put a three-way switch together or, 480 volts. But yeah, I can run your wire from that side of the house to this side. Like, yeah, I can do that. That's the difference between someone that's new, journeyman, to someone that's skilled. To say, whoever hooks it up, that's the most crucial part. Whoever ran it through the walls, you're like, I don't know. Just, did you cut it? No. Did you nick it? No. Okay, well then move on. So it's happening right now in commercial construction. I mean, I used a very dumbed down type of example, but yeah, you don't have highly skilled doing most of the remedial stuff. I mean, you do big stuff like NFL stadiums or large commercial projects. Heck, and I'm not picking on electricians, but sometimes what we'll do is we're like, hey, we're going to have a fixture party where you bring all your electricians from multiple jobs. And guess what? For this day, everybody's just hooking up the fixtures or turning the lights on, putting the trims together and stuff like that. And we got, 10,000 to do in 2 days. Okay. That's it. So it's a way of looking at, how you're building the different materials, getting people to buy in, right? Because you're like, okay, so I've got this it's not the same product, but you're like, okay, it's like the IKEA versus the furniture. Like, do you want someone to craft the furniture or, put together the unit? And at the same time, if it's just a desk for my 12-year-old, I don't need some elaborate desk that he's going to screw up with his freaking, markers. Like, dude, just put it in there. And I'm not saying that the product that you guys are doing is not like that. I'm like, I looked on your site and stuff, and I'm like thinking, how do I get that casita that I needed in the back of my property dialed in Arizona? That's because to the point, it would match house. You can build it to basically and skin the outside to look like my existing property. It's like, I'm not worried about the outside. It's like, if you can put together the walls and it does everything it needs to do and skin it how it looks the same, dude, I'm good. All good.
That's what we're trying to do, get the bulk of the heavy lifting done and allow for a little bit of customization on site so that we can get all the different variations of buildings we need to meet most needs.
Where do you anticipate the biggest successes to come from right now? Like let's look at the immediate term, 1 to 2 years. Where are we going to see Boxabl popping up the most in your mind? You said that a lot of your sales and regulation efforts are kind of coming to a point of fruition.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that people see a lot more projects out in the wilderness. You can check it out right now at boxabl.com/projects. And as we keep grinding through, I hope that it's going to, scale up and people are going to see more and more and more proof, case studies, examples of what can be done with this. And that will attract more and more interest. And then we'll keep scaling up. But it's really all about ramping up the sales for us at this point.
Did that, I'm trying to remember where I saw it. Like, the tiny house kind of following that started. Like, how do you think they started growing? And I don't know how big it is. And then again, what's the difference between someone putting a tiny house together and a Boxabl when, again, going back to the regulation side of it? And I'm like, what am I missing here?
Oh, yeah. The tiny house people, I think they're interested in it because it feels like attainable and they like the idea of downsizing and not having to manage all the stuff. And I think that was one reason we got a lot of interest in what we were doing, because we have a small house. So they're excited about that. But from the regulatory side, most of those tiny houses are on wheels. So technically they're RVs. So it's different. It's not building an apartment. It's where am I allowed to park my RV? So we actually have a product for that as well. We basically designed a house on wheels to fit for that use case.
And then when you guys come out and put these on property, are you doing the foundations, the concrete work there? Is that pad got to be done before you get there? Like, and then do you have crews that are going to go out and assemble this?
So right now, if someone comes in through the website, they order kind of an all-inclusive with installation, everything. We'll take it from their idea to them getting the keys. We'll handle everything, permits, subcontracting of foundations, install utilities, all that good stuff. that was a pivot we made recently, because before that we were trying to sell these boxes to dealers and larger customers, and that they would be in charge of installing them. And we realized it was better for us to handle the whole thing, make sure it's done right, protect our brand, scale up our sales pipeline, be able to say yes to everyone instead of sending them to a third party. So that was a change we made on our website recently that all kind of goes into this effort to ramp up sales, and that's really successful so far.
I think that's a smart move, because I could see from a branding situation, if they didn't put in the utilities correctly, or if they had something issues with the foundation, now they're blaming you, and they're like, well, it's the Boxabl installation.
It was always the plan to do that, but just at the beginning, we just didn't have the bandwidth, because there's a lot of micromanagement that comes with that. And we were just trying to figure out, how do we mass produce these houses? How do we get them approved and all that? So now we're able to get a little more staff in and handle actually the full projects, which is going to be great.
You mentioned management, and I'm curious about leadership. Was Boxabl, and forgive me for not looking at your full background, but was Boxabl kind of your first really big step into the leadership pond? And if so, or if not, what are some of the really big leadership takeaways that you've kind of learned over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely had employees for a long time, but I've never had over 100 employees. So that was definitely a learning curve, figuring out how to manage that many people, how to deal with that many personalities, how to keep everyone motivated, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's been good. I mean, I rely heavily on Microsoft Teams to just send messages to people. So I'm just constantly, hounding everyone on Teams, and I just appear in their phone,
And then for recruitment, like you said, some of the production, it doesn't have to be as skilled. Have you got anybody from the construction industry that has joined the team that used to do used to be in the traditional model, that is helping you kind of forge some paths, whether it's regulatory, whether it's building side, from some of that site work? Do you guys have anybody that you recruited from, so I'd say, the old guard into the new?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of people have experience in construction. I mean, not everyone. A significant amount of people in the company have no experience in construction, and I think that's a good thing. But on the flip side, we do need to know, how things are done, how things work, what are the traditional methods. So we've got a lot of people. Like one of the other co-founders, Kyle. Kyle's grew up. His father was general contractor, home builder in New York, so he knew everything about how things work, and so that was great to have in the mix from the early days.
Yeah, we had a guest on the other day with us, pre-construction manager, and we talked about like the difference between working in a vacuum in a controlled environment and then actually out on the project. It's like Earth versus Mars, right? We have all these things that we've accounted for. Yep, we know this. It works great on paper. It looks perfect. And then we get up there, we're like, oh, gravity. Forgot about that one, right? Like, we got to figure out how this works. Because when you start to get into the practical of putting stuff together and dealing with people and different trades and how everything kind of has to intersect, sometimes the best laid out plans turn into the biggest nightmares, just because things happen. All right. And that's like for our business, that's where we come in. We're like the oh shit handle, right? The last minute, like, I need an air compressor. I need something to basically move this out of the way that we didn't account for, and I don't have 2 days to set up shipping for it. Like, I need it in less than 90 minutes. Boom, we're there. Because we go back to cost per man hour. Like, how much is it costing you to have 9 people standing there at a union wage, waiting on a tool or a part or a piece of equipment that costs like $200, or a bucket that just, I need a 24 and all I got is an 18. We're like, yeah, let's roll. So, I call it the vacuum with controlled environment to the real world application, apples and walnuts.
Have you run any of the numbers when it comes to cost per square foot and the time difference between your methods and traditional methods for a home of similar size? Like what ratios are we talking about here?
I think we're far ahead. I can't say specific numbers, but then especially even right now, the way I look at what we're doing, like for example, we have 400,000 square feet of manufacturing space. We can build a lot of houses out of there, but it's still small compared to what we want to be. We're just proving the concept to justify the case for bigger factory, bigger assembly line, more scale. And if we can come ahead at this small scale, if we ever do get to the level of an automobile manufacturing plant, it's going to be even crazier. So that's what we're trying to do. And I think everything's kind of where it needs to be. Frankly, when we started the company, I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure, if we really could come out ahead. I thought we could, but you never know. And now we're starting to see more and more evidence, more and more real world costs, find out what are the pros and cons, because it's not just all advantages doing in the factory. There's downsides as well. There's things that are different. There's extra issues. Like for example, you need a crane to install a modular. You probably don't need a crane for most regular construction. So that's an added cost. But what do you save on the other side?
Can you
the house goes up in an hour right now once it gets on site? Roughly?
Yeah, it
can be as little as an hour?
In less than an hour, yeah.
Yeah.
Can you break it down? Like if I erected it, could I break it down and go put it somewhere else and move it?
Oh yeah. You can totally do that. We've relocated units many, many times, like a show unit that we set up and take down, set up and take down. It's meant to be a permanent house that meets residential building code, but just by the nature of it, yeah, you can take it out of there.
I'm thinking different market verticals because I've been on thousands of job sites, right? And I've seen the evolution of, we had these companies that would bring in the panel, I tell them grandma's panel walled, all brown and set down, and the project manager and the estimator and the interns would be on there on a project. Every project has a job site trailer, and they get them delivered, they get them hooked up, and then they take them away and they sit in these big yards because, they don't break down, and you move them. And then the evolution was, companies started saying, hey, we don't need this big 40 or 50 foot double wide trailer anymore to house all these people. We're going to make the room smaller, have a bathroom. Project manager has a smaller. So now what they've done is they've cut these 50 and 40s down to these 20s, and in some cases 10 by, feet long. I mean, they're really small. And so you think every single project, as soon as the green fence comes in, then you're always like, okay, let's wait for the first trailer to show up. And I don't care if you're doing a Walgreens or if you're doing a high rise, every single job site has a job trailer. Every single one. And if you're thinking like, hey, I can deploy this thing, knock it down, and then move it. I mean, think about all the stuff they're trying to rebuild. And it's like, that would also be a vertical, and be like, hey, start renting these things out, using that as a reoccurring model, build it, go to the construction companies and be like, yeah, I'll just put you a module up. And when you're done with it, rock and roll, send it to the next project.
Yeah, there's like endless use cases and opportunities. And, we see that just from people inquiring with their imagination from everything under the sun. Because of how well our marketing's done, we get so many inquiries and leads every day. Hundreds of thousands of people have sent us forms on our website. So, lots of opportunities, and we'll see where we really find our niche.
So is this considered like a B2B or a B2C product?
Oh, it's both. So if you're an individual that wants B2C, wants something, product, one casita for yourself, there's a form for that on the website, order page. And then if you want to buy 50 of them to go and develop a glamping community or something, you can do that as well on our website.
And from a marketing sales approach, are you seeing more success? Like, I wouldn't say trade shows, is it the social presence? Like, what's working to get the brand recognition out?
It's all about organic social media. And we've done probably 500 million views of our content. We've been like totally viral. We've used that to fuel everything with the company. I raised $230 million from over 50,000 investors with that method. Those hundreds of thousands of customer leads came from that. It's really a numbers game. If you get enough people to see you, a certain amount of them are going to be interested in what you're selling. And if you can get your videos to hit the algorithm the right way so that it gets fed to millions of people, then off you go.
Is that something you did in-house, or is that something that you had help with?
Yeah, I just did it. I early on was trying to get the word out, trying to figure out how to do it. And I think I had a big breakthrough one day. I'm like thinking about how to get the word out. So I start searching for YouTubers who have housing channels, emailed a bunch of them, got one to do a video with me. I sent her some B-roll. We did a quick video interview. She put up a video, and all of a sudden I saw this action. Her video got views, our website got traffic, we got inquiries, calls, all that. And I was like, okay, I'm on to something. And I just kept chasing that and scaled it up to kind of a record-setting level.
Yeah, and so those are some of the same challenges that we're facing right now. It's kind of because our product is strictly a B2B, like our target market is a B2B. Yes, people that want to use it from a B2C platform, sure. It's like you can use it. The app is open, the website's open for you if you want to establish an account. But we're in this process where our customer demographic is not looking for us. It's like they have their internal resources, they do it their way. So as we're trying to disrupt and get them to change the way they operate, it's like their initial perspective is like, nope, I want to keep this cost low so I don't use a service like this until I need it. And then when they do need it, they don't even look for it. It's like, oh yeah, somebody told me about this, right? So like you said, that social feed where if it's in front of them enough, hopefully they'll retain 10% of it, and then go back to it when they need it. Yeah,
just trying to get so many views.
Yeah, and that's gonna be JP knows it's hard for me because this will show how social media inept I am. I asked somebody, I'm like, what's the difference between an impression and a reaction? Someone's like, yeah, I had 10,000 impressions on LinkedIn. I'm like, well, does that mean they just scrolled past it, or do they actually watch your 45 to a minute video?
Impressions means they scrolled past it.
Yeah. So they just scrolled past it. They just saw the picture and your logo and said, okay.
Yeah, impressions means that it was displayed.
Yep, they had the opportunity to ingest.
But there's other metrics, like you can see like how many 3-second video views did you get? How many clicks did you get? How many whatever, depending on the ad.
So from a regulatory standpoint, is that same strategy going to work to see like, you look at disruptive media, right? Hey, we're trying to put affordable housing in your location, but we're getting standoff by this, entity. Expose them, and people start saying, hey, why are you blocking this?
Well, I'm doing it. And it's risky, because this is government that's powerful, but I'm doing it. Talking a lot of shit on the internet. So hopefully I'll survive.
Yeah, hopefully they'll come in and say, hey, your factory has some environmental issues that we have to shut you down for. And you're like, what are you talking about? That's not even a part of our building.
Yep. They're playing games like that. I mean, there's
put a giant mask over your facility and call it that something. It's dangerous.
Is there any tech or products out there outside of your own? So we're going... Nothing that you're specifically involved with, but is there anything out there that's exciting to you right now outside of what you're doing? We're like, ooh, that's also just a really cool idea, and I want to see where that goes.
Well, the big one that's going to change the whole world and the economics of the future is the humanoid robots. So I believe like within 10 years, there's probably going to be more robots than people. If you think about the way things work as far as like the cost to buy a product, and the way people get paid to do jobs. That's all like a factor of the cost of human labor. There is nothing else to pay. Even if you're talking about raw materials in the ground, for the most part, It's how much does it cost a person to get it out of the ground. So if all of a sudden you have humanoid robots that can do the same tasks that people can do, then the cost of the cost of that labor goes down very, very low. And then the cost of the products and services go down very, very low. I think we're going to basically enter into a period of the most abundance in human history, where all of a sudden everything is basically free and everyone has everything they want. And I think we'll live there shortly before the robots kill us all.
Yeah, I had the ability to get with a product. A friend of mine that developed a exoskeleton for the military, and by being with him, talking with him, he would show me some of the robotic shows, and I mean, very smart engineers, Cal Berkeley, MIT, and they're like, okay, check this out. A robot has to exit a golf cart, walk up 3 flights of stairs, turn a knob, and then get back in the cart. And it was like America's Funniest Home Videos. And these are really smart people. Or you watch them playing ping pong or something like that, and it's like you're watching these robots that can't, like, if everything's good, like flat surface, yeah, they can execute. But you put like a speed bump or a rock or something like that, they just fall on their back like a turtle.
Is there, but the AI combined with that now is where things are going to change. And it's pretty clear now that the AI is good enough to be smart and do stuff and make decisions. So once you can combine that with the humanoid robots that we already see walking around, shit's about to get crazy.
Yeah. Alex Poe, Scott, if you remember from Chamber, one of the other guests that we had, he had a very similar, I asked him almost the same question, Galiano, and he had a very similar response. He thinks he's most excited about the humanoid kind of robot revolution potential as well.
So it's a no-brainer. I've been waiting for it for 20 years. But now it's becoming like the real deal. And I think, it ends human suffering, it ends starvation, all that stuff, because we're about to have an army of robot slaves that are going to do all the work for us. So let's see how it pans out. It's going to be a wild ride.
I hope we can throttle it, because right now, the way I said, I'm the caveman. When that stuff starts happening, I'll be in Montana or Idaho in some tree line, and I'll be like, guys, have at it, be nuts. Like I'm in my compound, and I'm good. I'm good. I'll feed myself. I know how to field dress an animal. I'm self-sufficient. I'm good to go.
All right. Well, we're rounding the corner here. I don't have anything else that's pressing. I thought we covered a ton. Like we went through a whole gamut of stuff. So it was really cool to learn about what you're doing, a little bit about your past and what you're hoping the future holds.
If anyone's interested, check us out online, boxabl.com. We post updates on what we're working on social media, Instagram, X, all that. And the goal of the company is to make housing affordable through assembly line mass production of buildings in a factory.
All right. Well, let's wrap it up there. Galiano, super awesome to meet you. Scott, thanks for being on. And yeah, we look forward to seeing what Boxabl has in store for us.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
Well, everyone, that is a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Build. We took away some real valuable lessons and insights, and I hope that you did as well.
If you enjoyed this episode, we would ask that you subscribe so you can never miss an update. If you're a thought leader looking to innovate in the construction industry, let's talk. We'd love to connect and hear your thoughts.
You can find Beyond the Build on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, plus anywhere else that you listen. And if you'd like to learn more about how Faro is changing logistics in the construction industry, please visit our website at faronow.com.
Once again, thanks for tuning in. And until next time, be humble, serve others, and make an impact.